Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Patriarch Balthazar Gelt welcomes you to the outskirts of Altdorf, where we're going to be taking the Empire up against the forces of Chaos. Empire got quite a few buffs in the last patch, as you probably saw from my patch notes video. If not, feel free to check it out. They did get quite a few buffs. One notable buff is Spearmen with Shields got 25 cost cheaper, which is quite nice. They're a unit that I often find myself taking these days, so that's always great. They did get a few other minor buffs as well, one of them being 2 Pistoliers, which I do have 2 of. So let's go ahead and jump to the army compositions as we kind of talk through some things here. So Pistoliers got a minor charge bonus buff. They got a minor combat stat buff. I can't remember. I think it was melee attack. They also got 1 more armor-piercing damage per shot, which is important because if you look here, they actually shoot 2 shots per model per volley, which is very important. You can see that they're kind of holding these 2 pistols here, these 2 black powder pistols, which is very cool looking, and they do have this awesome firing animation. Going to be opening up shots on my opponent's Chaos Spawn right off the bat. So I wanted to test them out and see how they did. So we've got 2 of them. We've also got 3 Outriders, so a lot of skirmish cav, mobile firing lines kind of set up for this army. These guys are also going to be setting up and firing away at those Chaos Spawn out on the far side. In terms of the rest of the army, infantry composition should be fairly familiar for any of you who've seen my other Empire games. Balthazar Gelt is more of a fun pick. He's not really super competitive, but you know, I hadn't brought him in a while, so I figured let's give him a spin. He did get some horse mounts recently, which is pretty nice. He can get a lot of Winds of Magic, and in terms of spell selection, we've just got Transmutation of Lead and Plague of Rust. Metal Shifting, of course, gives 10% weapon and armor-piercing damage map-wide every time he casts a spell, which is alright. It's one of the decent lore attributes, definitely. We've also got the Royal Altdorf Griffites, Zittler's Reichsguard, a Witch Hunter, which is, again, another unit that I don't use too often. I see these guys brought occasionally. They do have a very heavy armor-piercing missile attack that's very good at poking away at armored infantry, cavalry, and so on. They're just pretty squishy in melee. They're pretty poor for a hero in melee. They do have this accusation, though, as well, which can do some solid direct damage. See 360-degree firing and can fire on the move as well now, so that's always nice. And yeah, we've got 1 more unit of Reichsguard out on the far side, and that's about it for my build. For my opponent's build, you can see he's got 3 units of Chaos Spawn, which is, you know, an interesting pick. The Empire tends to bring a lot of missile units, and Chaos Spawn are pretty vulnerable to missiles. That being said, they're going to be brutal against any kind of state troops, anything less than greatswords, and even greatswords I think they'd probably put a pretty good dent on. So he's got 3 of them, 2 Forsaken in the front line against, again, great against Empire infantry. He's got 2 Chaos Marauders with great weapons kind of on the flanks of his formation, just to help deal with armor. And he's got 3 Chosen in the center, 1 regular Chosen, 1 Chosen with great weapon, and 1 Chosen with halberds. Big Bird is the general of this army, and out of everything here, I like most of the picks. The Chaos Spawn, you know, it's kind of a fun pick. I don't know if they're super competitive, but they can definitely do well against the Empire. The one pick I'm not super crazy about is the Chosen, to be honest. The Empire infantry doesn't really warrant bringing Chosen. I mean, Chosen with halberds obviously going to be very good against things like Reichsguard and so on, but the amount of mobility that the Empire can bring, particularly mobile skirmishers, like Outriders, for example, you're going to need to bring some kind of mobility to counter. My opponent doesn't have any mobility, so what I like to do, and we'll kind of talk about this more at the end of the game here, but I would probably cut these Chosen and just bring a much wider infantry line. You can really honestly get away with using Chaos Marauders in the front line against the Empire, because state troops are really the common pick now. You might see 1 or 2 great swords, but you can kind of have your specialty units deal with the great swords anyway. So not too crazy about these picks specifically, but we'll see how they go for him. Let's go ahead and kick things into full gear as we watch what happens. So Pistolier is going to be continuously poking away at these Chaos Spawn as they advance. You can see they're dropping some really nice volleys. The one thing that Pistoliers do have going for them is they can put out infantry level volume of fire because they're a dual shot unit. So they can definitely dish out some pain, and you can see they're doing quite a bit of damage here. 2 units of Pistoliers have more or less been able to continuously fire and do about the same amount of damage as 3 units of Outriders to a Chaos Spawn, which granted is an unarmored unit, but it just goes to show, I mean, they do have pretty good DPS against unarmored units. They're just going to struggle a little bit against armor, although they will be slightly better now with that buff. You can see just a brutal amount of fire, though, coming off these Outriders, just picking away continuously at those Chaos Spawn, felling quite a few of them before they're even able to get into combat. Infantry line is getting engaged, though, all the way across the main line here for Sega, going to be charging in. And in the center, my opponent's kind of just going for the Alpha Strike here with the Chaos Spawn, and Big Bird here just brutally breaking the bracing bonus and just getting in here and absolutely massacring. But we are going to respond with the Royal Altdorf Gryphites here charging in, going to be trying to take care of these Chaos Spawn. And oh man, look at Big Bird. He's got one of those Empire State Troops wrapped up in the tentacles on his staff. Definitely not a good day for that guy. And man, I don't know if you guys have seen this animation before, but it's a super cool animation. Big Bird like picks up a guy in his staff and then watch what he does with it. He just like slaps him around with it. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Big Bird is such a G. Just throws him on the ground. Good stuff. So yeah, with the Royal Altdorf Gryphites, though, we'll be able to put those Chaos Spawn down in the big hurry, and then turn our attention to Sarthrail. So the unit of Chaos Spawn took enough damage from the Pistoliers coming in that they're pretty much done for, and a nice rear charge coming down from the Reichsguard on this side. The Zentler's Reichsguard over on the other side just took care of one unit of Chaos Marauders, now going to be pulling away. Yeah, they actually look like a charge in here. Gehenna's Hounds for my opponent, which is very nice. It's actually going to be pretty decent against the low armor of the Empire State Troops. So since I'm a little bit blobbed up here, he casts one of those. A very nice play by him. You can see both of these State Troops are kind of wavering here. And across the line, my infantry is buckling pretty badly here. This Reichsguard also gets terrified by Big Bird, so things are pretty close, all things considered. The Pistoliers are just kind of in a kiting motion, holding this unit of Chosen at bay, which honestly, considering this is like, 1,000 points worth of resources, holding out, 1,300 plus with the Chosen, very good trade for me. The Demigryph Knights with Halberds, though, these Royal Altdorf Gryphites have just about finished off the Chaos Spawn here, and then they can turn their attention over to Big Bird. Meanwhile, over on the far side, Balthazar Gelt has just been dropping his support buffs, haven't really been threatened too much. We've got the Witch Hunter running up and around here. You can see he's popping off shots over into the side of those Chaos Marauders over there. And then we're going to start turning his attention over to this unit of Chosen here. We're having to use one of these Outriders kind of more in a melee role. They're going to be fixed in here, and you can see in guard mode they actually will pop off a few shots here, but the Concave of Fire with the Witch Hunter and these other Outriders here means that they're going to be doing some pretty brutal damage. And yeah, we now dispatched the Witch Hunter to run up and around here. We're going to try and deal with this unit of Chosen with Halberds eventually. But yeah, just kind of moving him up and around a little bit. The Demigryph Knights with Halberds, these Royal Altdorf Gryphites here, have taken quite a bit of damage, but they still have most of their unit models left. So they're going to be just poking away at Big Bird, continuously doing damage. And one of the reasons why I like bringing a really wide line, especially with Big Bird, because it allows you in this type of situation to kind of run back and forth through your main line. Like, let's say the main line engagement was happening here. Big Bird can actually run back and forth through the mainline engagement like that, whereas these Royal Altdorf Gryphites will get caught up on the mainline engagement. So it can allow Big Bird to kind of disengage effectively from things like the Royal Altdorf Gryphites, which are currently just absolutely tearing him to pieces. So Big Bird is going to go down here on the outskirts of Altdorf in front of the gates. Forces of the Supreme Patriarch here are doing very well. Now we're immediately going to follow up on these Chosen here. And I've basically just been able to kite and not really engage the Chosen. This unit of Chosen has just kind of been kited around by my Pistoliers and so on. This other unit of Chosen got kind of circled around by that concave of Outriders and just got shot to pieces. So you can see we pulled up with the Witch Hunter, going to be popping off some shots against these Chosen here with the Outriders up on the hill as well in a very beautiful cinematic end to this battle. You can see the Reichsguard also fighting the Chosen over there, and the State Troops going to be just cresting the hill, and with that the Warriors of Chaos will rout. So despite these Chosen being very healthy and a very elite unit, they decided they didn't want to face the rest of the Empire army alone. So well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that. A bit of a fun build from my side and from my opponent's side as well. I wouldn't say that either of these builds are optimal. But this build, I will say, allows you to go very wide in terms of mobility, and the amount of skirmish cav you can bring as the Empire is pretty scary. Like, this would be, I think, a scary army against a lot of different factions if it was played appropriately. Granted, my State Troops did get crushed, which is kind of what you expect, to be honest, but we're able to get the damage done this time with the specialty units here. 50 kills on these Reichsguard, 69 on the Zentler's Reichsguard, 27, and of course taking down Big Bird is the key moment for the Royal Altdorf Gryphites. Big Bird had been able to survive into the late game, and be a little bit more trollish and pulling around and staying close to these chosen, particularly the chosen with halberds, it would have been a really rough engagement for me. Granted, I did still have most of those outriders still healthy and with plenty of ammo, so the Witch Hunter as well, picking up 33 kills on infantry. Didn't get the most kills, but you know, then again, he didn't really get called upon to do too much. But at the end of the day, for my opponent, the Chaos Spawn just really didn't pay off, and that's one of the biggest issues, is that I think in this patch in particular, you're going to see a lot of missile cav from the Empire, so I don't think the Chaos Spawn really have a role. I think you're going to need to bring lots of hounds, and well, let's go ahead and just kind of go into the post-battle screen here, and we can talk about Chaos versus the Empire, and what I like to take when taking the Ruinous Powers here. So let's go ahead and jump to Custom Battle. And I mean, I can just show you guys what I have saved, and then I need to update this build. But my Big Bird build here, normally what I'll do is take something like this. Honestly, since I've been playing quite a bit with this build, I've tinkered it with it a little bit. Sometimes I'll do something like this. You know, this gives you a nice wide infantry line, and honestly, these Chaos Marauders are going to trade just fine against most state troops. If we go ahead and pull up the Empire for the other side here, you can see a Swordsman, for example, 32, 32, and 28, whereas the Chaos Marauders are 34, 28, and 28. So they're, you know, pretty comparable. Same leadership. The Chaos Marauders do have slightly less armor, which, you know, is a factor. They do have a slightly higher charge bonus as well, and they're 25 points cheaper. So, I mean, you can get away with using the Chaos Marauders against most Empire infantry. Forsaken, for that matter, are even better. I mean, they'll tear apart even, you know, great swords in the right situation, especially if you hit them with the Plague of Rust. In terms of spell selection here, Plague of Rust and Searing Doom are very nice against the Empire. Gehenna's Hounds is one that the more I play with it against certain factions, the more I like it. Against the Skaven and the Empire, I think when you're taking Big Bird, it's a pretty good pick if it develops into a big blob of infantry, especially against the Skaven. This spell can do a lot of damage, but yeah, the Chariots are there to help deal with armored infantry, and you have the Marauders with throwing axes and the Poison Warhounds to deal with knights. You know, you stick one of these Chaos Poison Warhounds in a Forsaken on a unit of Demigryph Knights, for example, hit them with an Overcast Plague of Rust, and your units will win that engagement, which is super cost effective for you. So I like some of the picks there, but I think you just need to cut a few things, and this will allow you to have a little bit more mobility. The Marauders with the throwing axes are going to be nice at picking away at heavy cavalry as well. And yeah, basically the key with this build is that you have a big, not wide line that Big Bird can kind of run around and be a troll in. And if your opponent's focusing all their, you know, Demigryph Knights and anti-large power on Sarthrel like they probably should be, then your Chariots are free to run shop on infantry. You can poke away at them continuously with the throwing axes, and yeah, it's what I like to do. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'm keeping it coming with more Total War Warhammer 2 content every single day, so stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.